So I've been in Asia for the past 12 years, mostly in Shanghai, but I'm now based in Singapore. And I'm so covering everything which is digital and e-commerce development for Clarins in Asia-Pacific. I especially spent 9 years in Shanghai, not only for Clarins, for different kind of experiences. And I started, I would say, the overall kind of digital footprint of the company over there back in 2011. And just about, to give you a context about what Clarins is, so Clarins is a luxury skincare company, and which is obviously very, very famous in France because we are #1 in our market, in the premium skincare market. But we are not as well known in Asia, even though we are investing a lot. So we really have a true challenge when it comes to gaining share of awareness, brand awareness, share of voice on the markets over there, and definitely in China, which is the #1 market for us in Asia, if not worldwide. And I would say, so Clarins is the company which is born, in retail, offline retail business back in 1954, and which is like many companies born in brick and mortar, facing this, digital disruption which is happening today, which is having to reinvent somehow its business model in view of these new digital enablers. And one of the key things we are trying to drive today is to have a cross-channel organization. And when we say cross-channel, it's not just to use the hype of saying we are doing cross-channel, but it's really to kind of diffuse the digital expertise throughout all the departments of the organization and all the things we are offering either to the consumers, but also that we are kind of facing internally as an organization. And so why I want to discuss about this today, because it's fairly complex for an organization like us to implement this kind of approach, because it requires obviously a lot of organizational changes, which is one of the complexity. And it's also a major challenge in terms of technology for the architecture that we need to build to support this kind of ambitions that we're having. So I'm going to talk more about how we're trying to do it on the kind of architecture standpoint. And obviously, we are here today to talk about China. Why for us it's very important for this topic? Because China is the #1 market in which we have been able to start implementing this kind of approach, real cross-channel kind of approach, which is something that we can do thanks to the specific ecosystem which is existing over there, and somehow maybe the mindset of the people over there in terms of the consumer and how they are leading this kind of trends, and also in terms of the organization, our people are willing, as it was said earlier at the panel, to kind of disrupt themselves and accept disruption fairly easily. So I'm just going to remind a few of the figures which makes it for us obvious that China is the market in which we had somehow to go faster in this cross-channel development. The second thing I want to share is how, but really, really rapidly, how we approach cross-channel as an organization. And then I'll try to give you more concrete example, very, very concrete, of how we are doing this, in terms of how we are implementing this ambition concretely in our organization for China. And last but not least, we also believe that China is becoming one of the most important innovation hub for companies through digital technology, etc. And as much as we have innovation centers around digital in the US, we are also trying to enhance a lot what is happening in China to then spread this and scale this kind of things throughout Asia first, and then maybe hopefully throughout the world. So the first thing is that digital rules in China. Thank you. I think it's pretty clear for everyone here. The time spent on digital media consumption and digital channels in China is maybe the time spent on the people in this market, in that market over there, is maybe one of the most important markets in terms of digital consumption. And what we see is that it's not so much the share of the digital media consumption which is being made, but it's the low share of the traditional media. So basically, traditional media has been kind of taken out of the picture, and everything is happening on digital platforms. And this happens throughout the day. So from morning to evening, basically people are always consuming through digital touchpoints. So whether it's with their smartphone, obviously, or to different kind of devices, it's really a highly digitally penetrating market, much more than any other market. And this is obviously linked also to the strong mobile power that China is harnessing. We've already seen some figures. You have more figures here. Chinese people are always on their mobile. They are, I would like to say, breathing through their mobile, and they are somehow never disconnected from their smartphone. They are highly social as well, so it's always kind of, intertwined kind of relationship between what you are doing on your mobile and the social activities you are having. They are one of the biggest markets in terms of reviews, comments they are doing on the website, and I would say the advice of the peers is maybe one of the most important in terms of how they are going to choose a brand or service, etc., etc. And as we guess most of us know as well, it's a market which has totally leapfrog to mobile and somehow skipped the desktop part. This is highly due to the size of the market, whereby most of the people coming from third, fourth, and fifth tier cities have gone directly on mobile with basic smartphones to be able to start consuming this kind of either it's a TV show or whatsoever. And this has been, of course, taken, I would say, as an embrace by companies like Alibaba, who have spread the accessibility to e-commerce through smartphones, etc., on the market as well. So what we see here is that basically, even though we still have a somehow low penetration of internet users in China compared to the other markets, everything is happening on mobile, and you always need to think mobile first when it comes to your interaction you want to have with the Chinese people. The third point is also maybe, and I think they're competing between South Korea and China, the biggest market in terms of online sales penetration. So these figures, were estimation between 2013 and 2018, where we see that between, let's say, 10 to 15% of the online, of the total retail sales are going to happen online in China. And when you compare this with the average worldwide, clearly China is way in advance. And once again, this is also linked to the size of the market, to the way that Alibaba has spread the accessibility to e-commerce and to mobile commerce to all different tiers, kind of cities in the market. But this is something for us which is very, very key, because then the contribution of online sales in our total portfolio of sales is more important than in any other market, I would say, worldwide. Korea is slightly specific because Korea is mostly owned by some retailers, so we have less access to the data over there. In China, it's really our own platform somehow, or through Tmall, but to which we get access to the data. And so it's a really, really huge pool of consumer sales which are happening online. And just to give you an idea for Clarence, basically Clarence, we have e-commerce sites everywhere in Asia, e-commerce, m-commerce, whatever. The size of the box is basically the size of the business we are doing online. And as you can see, if we take out Tmall of the picture, it's becoming much more challenging for us to say we are doing e-commerce in Asia. We are doing e-commerce in Asia because mostly we are doing e-commerce on Tmall. And Tmall is driving a huge, huge part of our online sales, and is really a key element of how much we are growing our presence to the different also Chinese citizens over there. And just to be very more precise, this is to give you an idea of the sales mix we have in APAC. So Tmall is almost 2/3, a little less than 2/3 of the total online sales we are doing. Then our brand.com is kind of 1/4 of what we are doing, and then obviously we are working with some retailers as well. But once again, just to tell you that China as a digital ecosystem is highly specific because it relies on platforms which are less on the same model than what we are having in different markets such as the US or in Europe, where the share of the mix is between retailers and our brand.com. And platforms such as Tmall, for example, does not exist. The last point is that for us, as I was saying at the very beginning, being a brick and mortar company, the volume of sales we are doing in store is something which is very important, and obviously it's the biggest pool of sales that we are retrieving today, even though online sales are growing very, very rapidly. But what we see is that the influence of digital platforms on these sales is more and more important. And we believe that almost 2/3 now of the sales which are being made in the point of sale are influenced by digital touch points whether it's the media, digital advertising we are doing, or the search which is being made on Tmall and the visibility we have thanks to our flagship store, or obviously, our WeChat presence, which I'm going to detail a little bit further. But there is really, this ecosystem which has been built, where digital is becoming kind of, the basis of everything which is going to touch, the consumers. And then we need to be able basically to start from there and make sure that the experience we are going to offer on the different touch points is going to be fairly consistent and make sense, from a user point of view. So rapidly, just a quick takeaway. So China is a highly digital market, and obviously it's going to impact more and more all the different touch points. The percentage of e-commerce penetration on total sales is really high, and it's the highest, at least for us, in our organization. Our stores are more and more highly impacted by this digital influence, especially in China. And we are on a market which is breathing through their mobile, as I was saying. And overall, this makes it to us kind of, the first brick of what I'm going to explain in terms of why we have chosen China to go further in our cross-channel approach. If I try not to speak about how we see cross-channel, and I'm, getting a little bit away from China itself, but more as an overall Asia-Pacific strategy. What we notice overall, and I guess most of the organization face the same challenges, is that we are being challenged on all the different sides of the organization because of digital. So obviously this is the retail, and we know the experience we offer in store to the users, and the role that our sales associates have in store is changing with the availability of e-commerce. It's clearly a major change, a dramatic change, I would say, in terms of the media landscape. We are in the pool of companies who tend to invest a lot on media, and for us, the kind of media we are investing on is really key in terms of how we are going to develop our brand awareness, especially in a region where we do not have yet huge market share. And so in 2 years' time, just to give you an idea, we shift our media investment from 15% being allocated to digital to this year going to be more than 65%. And if I look at China, it's close to 100%. So to us, clearly being strong, being consistent in what we're offering as communication is really key, because now every kind of consumption is being duplicated between what we do online and what then the consumer are going to experience in the point of sale. So there has to be full consistency. And then I can continue in terms of worldwide policy, worldwide pricing transparency, which is becoming more and more obvious for Chinese consumers, who are, I guess, the best ones in leveraging cross-border e-commerce. And it goes as far as the people we have in the organization, because it's becoming harder and harder as a company to be sexy enough in a way to make sure we are going to attract the best talent versus Apple, Facebook, WeChat, or whatsoever, who are kind of disrupting also this industry and poaching the talent away from us. So it's really something which for us has to be key. And when we say cross-channel, we are trying to embrace, let's say, cover all these kind of aspects. Let's get this one. So just to try to stay on the consumer-centric side, when we define cross-channel for us, it's mainly three attributes. It's cross-channel content, so it's basically making sure that the digital team in a way and the rest of the organization are not going to work in two different streams. And so I might do this very nice fancy HTML5 app on WeChat. If it does not echo what we are pushing in outdoor media, on TV, or in the point of sale, it's very nice, but somehow we are losing the point and we are losing the consumer in terms of consistency of the message we are trying to convey. And this is a very, very strong point. And just to give you an example, we are even more and more developing digital content to showcase what you would experience in the store as a consumer. So what is the value of our beauty advisor and why you should go as a user, not only buying online, but also in the store to live the full Clarence experience. And this is for us what we call kind of cross-channel content. The second thing is cross-channel retail. Obviously, it's, I guess, what everyone is aiming at. It's click and collect, or how do you move from online to offline seamlessly, how a user can see the inventory that on the point of sale from the website and kind of book in advance, all these kind of things we are aiming at. And to go even further, we could even say that somehow the transactional event which is supposed to happen in the point of sale is more and more going to disappear, because it's more and more going to be digitized. And the role of the beauty advisor is going to be more and more in enhancing kind of the experience they are offering to the users. And we are really trying to disconnect somehow the system which is going to capture the transaction versus kind of the experience that we are going to deliver to the users. And the third thing is cross-channel service, which I would say is going to be somehow a consequence of everything else we are trying to build. The idea is that to build this and to enhance our level of service, we need to make sure we have a clear visibility of everything which is happening across different touchpoints, and that this information can be shared across the different environments. Okay? And once we have this, we are able to, for example, merge the loyalty programs we're having. And typically today, in our organization, if you buy online or if you buy offline, you don't benefit from the same loyalty program. So you kind of, as a consumer, you have two different loyalty programs from the same brand, which is not the nicest experience you might have. And because we have this challenge in merging the systems and implementing the architecture that we want to implement to support this kind of ambition. So the key thing is that if we want to achieve this target, we need to implement the right digital ecosystem. And to us, it's all about the consumer. So it's how we are going to build the different bricks around the consumer so that we can capture all the right information to then kind of dig around all this data and make sure then we deliver most personalized message to the right consumer at the right time for the right touch point, etc., etc. So we are kind of ticking the box in terms of what we are implementing. So we have a website, we have a responsive site, we are deploying a very nice POS system in the point of sale to capture the data. We're trying to implement cross-channel kind of 360 databases to implement all this, etc. We act on social media, so it's kind of all the checkbox are ticks. Now the big challenge we have is how do we link all this together, and how do we make sure that people in the organization kind of work collaboratively around these systems, organization, etc., and how we, the system, kind of are able to cope with the exchange of data between the different touchpoints. And this is why, to us, China is going to be kind of the pioneer in this thing, and which is why I'm going to detail. But the point is really for us to make sure that we are trying to only think about, what the consumer, is expecting to, and because we believe that the consumer is anyway always ahead of us in terms of the experience that they want to deliver, and it's how we are going somehow to close the gap between the expectation they have and how we can fulfill these expectations. And one of the key things today to be able to do this is to implement a cross-channel organization and architecture. So then, why China? So basically what was before in China, and I could say what is today at Clarence Worldwide almost, is that we have, as I was saying, all these things which are implemented, like we've checked all the boxes in terms, I have a website, I have a POS system, I have an iPad in my point of sale or whatsoever, but it's kind of very silo. And we have an e-commerce team working somehow independently from the store team when it comes to typically CRM messaging. So the e-commerce team is sending emails like every single week to their base, but without even knowing what the offline CRM team is going to do. And we might contact the same consumer at the same time with different messaging, but it's different departments, so somehow we don't even think about it. What we are really trying to change now is to break this kind of silo that we're having. So just one thing, the only thing somehow that we know and that we share across the different channels is the level of revenue we are doing on the different platforms. So 85% of our business is done offline, 15% of our business is done online, but that's basically the only thing we know. Then who are the consumers doing this business, and is it consistent across channel, what is the average order value we're having across channel, etc., etc., is something which is pretty unclear and somehow unknown in the organization. So the issues we face is that so we independently manage, no visibility on the whole consumer database. It goes as far as having different kind of investment strategy per channel. So if I come back to the content cross-channel content kind of strategy, we see sometimes that we have media being invested by the traditional media team going on a specific platform, which is not in line with the messaging which is being pushed offline, etc., etc. So there is kind of dilution of the effectiveness of media investment, etc., etc. So really for us, it's a key thread because we see kind of a limitation as to the potential that we're having as an organization if we move to a more cross-channel organization. So, without emphasizing too much the role of the platform, but I would say that the game changer for us in terms of mindset is WeChat. I'm saying in terms of mindset because WeChat is not the platform which is changing everything in terms of architecture, but with the rise of WeChat, we have started somehow to be able to embark everyone in the organization because it has become somehow the only touch point you need to use almost in China if you want to reach your consumer, whatever the purpose you have. Whether it's brand communication, whether it's CRM interaction, whether it's loyalty redemption or whatsoever, everything today can happen through WeChat. Whether it's marketing campaign, less and less we develop somehow microsite on our .com. More and more we develop HTML5 website within our WeChat page. So WeChat has somehow become kind of the aggregator of everything which we wanted to do. Then the question was, how do we link basically all the different systems together so that we can, at the end of the process, leverage WeChat for everything that this can be used for. And so for us, the idea was really to kind of see the consumer lifetime value and start to get a clear picture of how all the different channels we are distributing products today are interacting together. So it's online platforms, department store, and spa, because we also have a spa business. And basically, starting from these different kind of opportunities of touch point we have, what is going to be the strategy we are going to implement across the platform for each of them, but teamed with the full knowledge of everything which is happening across the board. So basically, why would you this in department store, knowing that that is happening on .com, etc., instead of just doing it for .com because this is what you think you need to do for .com without knowing what is happening in the other platform. So what we built, pretty simple somehow, even though it seems very complicated as an organization overall. We've taken all these touch points, so whether it's obviously what's happening in the store, our Tmall store, our clients.com platform, the social platforms we're having, Weibo, WeChat, etc., or even the customer service. And now we have connected every single touch point to a big 360 database where we process all the information and we somehow manage a deduplication of all the customer data and the customer profile. So this is something which I believe has been, once again, manageable to do, especially thanks to China power, for mainly 2-3 reasons. One is the importance, of what we are seeing, this kind of digital penetration overall, whether it's media, sales, etc., in China, which makes it something too important in the overall business model of the organization in China, not to be able to link it to the rest. Because when your e-commerce business is doing 2% of your total sales, basically it's fine, but you'll think about this later. When your total business online is doing like 15% of your sales, it's becoming key basically to link it to the rest. And this is only happening in China. The second thing is that China being somehow so specific as an environment, it's somehow a challenge because we can never plug Western tools in China. It's always this kind of crazy bottleneck where you need to relocalize everything because it's not connected to WeChat, it's outside of the Great Firewall or whatsoever. So somehow this challenge has become an opportunity to say, okay, so let's do it locally. And let's somehow get this startup kind of environment, which is let's build something locally with the power of what can be done locally to go faster in implementing the model, instead somehow of having the slowness somehow or the complexity that we would have had in taking a global tool that we had to tweak to make enter in kind of the China scope, which is always a bit of a challenge. And then lastly, I think was the mindset of the people over there, and as once again was said earlier, people were really kind of ready to go for this. And very collaboratively speaking, were ready to kind of share information among departments, between the e-commerce team, the department store team, etc., which is not always the case because we sometimes have internally, we face kind of territory issues in terms of organization, etc., And I would really see that these are the combination of these three elements which made for us, a really good opportunity to do this in China. And then lastly, but somehow this is maybe only the cherry on the cake, once we have all this, now what we can do is that then we can fully segment our database, we can fully have knowledge of who is coming from where, going where, etc. And then WeChat comes into play. Because then WeChat becomes, the kind of campaign management tool that we are using to spread any kind of message to any kind of users, where we build, CRM loyalty programs. So I saw the example of Sephora, Lancome, etc. So it's kind of the same spirit, where we're asking the user basically, as soon as they become a consumer, to bind their WeChat account to their client's account, and then they get the access to everything which we can offer, and we get access as well to the full 360 level of information of the consumer, where he bought before, which kind of amount, where does he want to redeem, which kind of gift does he want, within his loyalty program, etc., etc. So yeah, okay. And I think just to give you one figure, because to us this is a key game changer. So from typically only having the knowledge of what was the revenue generated per platform, to give you an example today, I'm able to say exactly per channel what is the level of cross-channel consumer really we have. So how many customers really are cross-channel? Is it 5%? How many? What is the contribution of each channel in terms of recruiting new user or more enhancing repeat purchase? And we realize typically, even though I guess it's obvious, but we really have concrete figures that platforms like Tmall or Ecommerce are really huge new user recruitment platform for us, whereas our department store business is less and less a new user recruiting platform, but more and more kind of entertaining loyalty and enhancing repeat purchase. So typically having this visibility enables us to refine our strategy, to emphasize more in terms of our media investment, the content we do, even the merchandising offer we're having, to target different kind of population, either repeat purchaser or new purchasers. To give you another idea today, so in China with this new system, any new customer we are acquiring, wherever we acquire them, follow the exact same communication cycle. So it's not anymore we have the CRM offline team, kind of calling the consumer or sending them a DM or whatsoever, and the online team, sending a WeChat or an EDM that no one is reading. It's really full 360 kind of approach where we know exactly, okay, this customer has been acquired there, so he has to follow this path of life cycle communication. That customer has been acquired on that other platform, and he might follow, kind of roughly the same logic with slightly different messaging, so that we tailor the communication based on where we have acquired the customer and what is, I would say, is a client's experience overall. Is he a new customer or is he a former offline customer going online, etc., etc. And lastly, in terms of the figures, so you can focus on the bottom right corner. What we realize is that as soon as people start binding their WeChat account with their client's account, then the repeat purchase of new users is doubling. So basically people who are connecting with the brand and making the step of linking their WeChat account with the brand, we managed to double basically the percentage of repeat purchase that they are going to do for us. Obviously the big challenge is to make sure that these people are going to connect and that they are going to be willing to connect their WeChat account with their client's account, and this is I think one of the main challenges we are working on today, but we already have close to 20-25% of every new purchaser which is linking their WeChat account with their client's account, and so which to us provides a full visibility of what they are doing as a client's user. So this was about China. Then if we look at Asia-Pacific now, and worldwide, but I'm only working for Asia-Pacific, what we are starting to see and the level of knowledge we are starting to get from China now is mind-blowing to us. And suddenly we really start having this level of data which is incoming to us, and we start seeing the number of opportunities we're having in interacting more deeply and with much more kind of personalization with the different kind of users. And obviously all this is around the social platform, because WeChat once again is one of the trigger of this mindset. And luckily for us, I would say Asia is really at the forefront of this messaging app like WeChat, and this is something which to us is highly inspiring, because this is a model we are trying now to deploy to the other market, especially Japan and Korea. So just to give you an idea, sorry, I'm not sure if this slide is perfectly clear, but basically what you have on the right-hand side are the messaging app, and on the left-hand side are the more broadcast social app, if I might say. So what we notice basically is that everything which is broadcast app, Instagram, Facebook, etc., on which it's more and more important to pay to play, we have an official presence, we are on par with the market, but basically the level of individual data we are getting is fairly low when it comes to really a kind of a CRM approach. So it's becoming more and more broadcasting, advertising, and we need to invest more and more media on this platform to kind of gain share of voice. If you go on the messaging app, it's a fairly different story. So the setup cost might be high, typically online, but I would say it's not yet purely advertising platform. and we are really on platforms which are enabling CRM connection and then a one-to-one relationship we're having with the users. And as you see, we are only today present officially on WeChat, but clear to us, it's very clear that the next step is to migrate to KakaoTalk in Korea, to Line, in Japan. When WhatsApp will be ready, then it will be ready for WhatsApp. But I think that's basically the idea that market per market, we are really getting inspired from this model we have built in China because it's delivering so much value to us, and to the users then at the end of the day. Okay, I think that's all. And so just, I think this is the last slide. When we think cross-channel, we think more and more at the same time about our social media strategy in a way where we really kind of make a strong differentiation between the broadcasting social platform, which are less and less social in a way, but more and more kind of media advertising kind of platform, and this kind of narrowcast, let's call it that way, platform where we are really going to try and build a specific relationship with the users with this one-to-one relationship. And kind of a cherry on the cake for us is that we are also more and more seeing these platforms as a content enabler because we are going to pull more and more content from the user instead of ourselves creating content ourselves, but this is another story. And I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Julian.